Screen echoes from the valley, telling the African story.
Prevalence of neurodevelopmental disorders has been on the increase over recent years. However, little is known about the early identification, management, and education of children living with these disorders in Africa.
My pregnancy's journey used to be kind of difficult. I wouldn't eat, throwing up, all those kind of things. So it was the same condition. Yes, I noticed that sometimes I would, like I'm getting dizzy. Occasionally in the office, I'll be like, I'm dizzy. Sometimes when I'm driving, I'll have to park. So I went and I registered this particular baby. Like I said, I planned to enjoy it. So I went to the best antenatal clinic, better than my previous children. And I went to that kind of clinic. I was always, in fact, every week, and every time I had an appointment with the doctor, he used to scan us. I was always undergoing scan and everything. So he was even the president of the Gynecological Society of Nigeria at that time, that doctor. So I don't know why he didn't notice anything. But I used to tell him that I'm feeling dizzy. But he would just say, it's okay, it's okay. I had the baby at home, but I noticed that she didn't cry. So I was like, Immediately they called the midwife and everything. The doctor eventually came. I told them, and I still went to the hospital. I told them that the baby didn't cry. And the doctors were like, oh, maybe she didn't feel like crying. Even before she was 3 weeks, when the doctor eventually diagnosed it, my mind would keep going to the fact that this girl didn't cry. The baby didn't cry. But that was all. But what even made us to know was that she now had jaundice. Okay, she started running temperature at less than a week old. I'd never seen a baby that tender running temperature, because children with Down syndrome, they have a peculiar temperature, you know. So she said her temperature was so high and everything. So we see malaria. Eventually we found out that she was jaundiced. So it was when we went for, even at that one, the doctor said we should just put her under the light. We went home. But when she was 3 weeks old, we went again. The jaundice was still there. They admitted her. So even though the doctors there did not observe anything, it was when the day they discharged her, when the consultant came, he was the one who noticed it and now told me.
The perception and reaction of Africans towards neurodisabilities has been attributed to the lack of informed knowledge.
Some parents will be going to pastor, imam, or native doctors, or seeking for solutions which might, I don't want to say will, but might never come, mostly might never come. So at the end of the day, the belief is still there that it's being caused by, in fact, some even tell you that it was my neighbor in the village, that when I was pregnant, this woman touched my tummy and said this now. You know, so we'll even tell you, there's this belief that your father was meant to worship so and so I do, but he did not worship, he refused, and that is why he's giving birth to children with disabilities. Some also believe that this parent was bad, is a punishment for bad deed and all that. So some just believe that a child or children with disabilities are possessed from, you know, marine kingdom, so they will dispose them, they will kill them, so some will even lock them in the house, they will never even see the light of the day and everything. So it's just actually a very difficult task here. But then some parents are actually enlightened as well. Some parents are, in fact, they will even go as far as even doing some of the professional courses that we are doing to educate themselves. Some parents, after consulting with them and going through some counselings with us, so they were able to understand, this thing is not really spiritual. Then that is the place we need to explain to you what is going on, both the biological aspect of it, then which I'm going to explain. So, but then it's a very difficult task convincing or letting many African parents know that this is not a spiritual. There is no spiritual connection to disability. It's just biological. So I'm a Christian. I believe in miracle. But then, on this case, it just needs to seek medical and educational intervention for this.
Screen echoes from the valley, telling the African story.
Charles Ugwoke is a speech therapist and registered behavioral technician with 5 years of experience working with special needs children. He gives biological explanations to some neurodevelopmental disorders.
Okay, let me explain a bit about Cerebrum. So cerebrum has 4 lobes, and in these 4 lobes they have different functions they coordinate. Now the occipital lobes controls our vision. So for us to see, making what we're seeing, our occipital lobe needs to control our vision. Then when you come to temporal lobes of the brain, which controls the speech and hearing as well. So when you come to parental lobes, controls our sensory information and everything. Then and our frontal lobes controls our emotions, judgment, decisions, and even speech. Everything we do on earth as a human being is being controlled by our brain. Now the causes of disabilities. Now the causes, now I want to break it into prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal. So prenatal is during pregnancy, perinatal during delivery, postnatal after delivery. Now in the prenatal stages, what causes this could also be poor nutrition. Then poor antenatal. Now, you know that's first 3 months. They're very important. That is when brain develop first, and to stimulate other body parts development. Now, imagine that a woman who is pregnant is not even aware in the first 3 months that brain ought to develop first, and she's busy consuming anything, not being careful, taking alcohol, drugs, hard labor and all that, not taking any medical precaution. Then what do you expect? In some cases, now there might be an issue there. So now brain may not be able to develop the way it ought to develop, which may lead to, because from this embryonic stage, based on research, now from this first 3 months are very important, and 2 weeks to 8 months, that is when all the organs are meant to develop. So anyone who did not develop at that time may end up having problems after birth. Now this can cause a prenatal, this can be the prenatal cause of disabilities. Now perinatal could be during delivery. Now prolonged labor, then use of forceps and all that, so the child might even slip off and fall. So the first of all, the body part and the brain are still developing and they're still too fragile. So if the child falls out, and even use of forceps and even prolonged labor, it can lead to all these disabilities. And again, some because of the rural areas and even economic aspect of some families, so they may prefer to even deliver at home without having a proper medical care, having a midwife or midwifery intervention and everything. So you just having people around your area trying to help you based on their own knowledge. So this can also lead to, I'm not saying that they may not be able to help you out successfully, but they are not trained in this field, so they can just do their normal evidence-based practice to help you out to deliver your child. So, and all this can lead to it, right? Then postnatal is after birth, illness, accident and all that. Now the risk again is this. Now, like when a woman is pregnant, that this placenta barrier, so the blood of the mom and baby does not reach them. So but due to illness, and if the wall is being broken, so the illness that the mom must be facing also affect the child in the womb. Imagine that is happening, and the baby is still developing, and it's going to affect body part and even brain development as well. So you might end up giving birth to a child with disability. 1 or 2 or more of them can lead to giving birth to a child with autism. Now when it comes to cerebral palsy, cerebral means brain, palsy means paralysis. Now, where brain need oxygen. Without oxygen, brain may not survive. So during delivery, the child was meant to come out at so time, but there was a prolonged labor. So now that can lead to giving birth to a child with cerebral palsy. One needs to actually be careful of what you take when you're pregnant, and then be careful of what you do, the kind of work you do when you're pregnant. Always go to hospital for medical intervention, even if you have a mild headache.
The stabilization of children with special needs has a range of challenges, from their health, behavioral reinforcement to their education. But for Charles Ugwoke, the tougher the situation, the better for him. He shares his intervention experience.
It's been an amazing experience, because you see a child that's been brought to you not having much, for example, in speech, not having much words or speech at all. But with your therapeutic intervention, then you start having words from the child and seeing smile from the parent. A child who cannot say daddy, mommy, start saying daddy, mommy. A child who cannot even say give me, start saying give me. So there's this a special joy from the parent and even you as a therapist. Okay, there was a child that came from one of the countries in Europe, and the child came to us. Then it was really severe, like really severe. So, and this child can slap himself and everything, so bite himself, and the meltdown can be severe, even harsh. So, and the child, you can't even cut his hair, so you can't even cut his fingernails, you can't even eat where he is. So, and when he starts slapping and hitting himself and biting himself, it can last for an hour or two. So what do? So you need to research. So I have not seen such case before. Book I read and the school just gave me little ideology on how can, but that was not enough. So we need to start researching. So I saw it as a challenge that I have to conquer this, which gave me more energy. So when we were done and I was done with that child, I saw children with a similar condition. I was just laughing. I said, ma, do this, sir, do this, ma, do this. It's not a big deal, we can handle it. But before, we didn't have much more knowledge on what to do, but we researched on it, on that case, and we got to know what to do. Okay, now what we did was this. You know, when you are meeting children with behavioral challenges, now or problem behaviors, now you need to understand the principles of ABA, that is applied behavior analysis. So, like I said before, I am a registered behavior technician through BACB. So, and you have to assess the child. When you assess the child, then you need to know what causes, like ABC, like antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Then what causes that behavior, and that behavior, and the consequence means now what happens after the behavior. Now, so when after assessing the child on what causes the behavior, and the behavior itself, and what happens after the behavior, we're able to come up with a plan. Now we use the reinforcement and also punishment. Punishment doesn't mean flogging children, because we don't beat children, we don't even yell at them. So like just using evidence-based practice to control behavior. One, we use the reinforcement, and it's both a positive and negative. So positive reinforcement is more of adding something to increase a behavior. So you do something, I praise you, then you want to do it more, right? Then the negative reinforcement is that if you do this behavior, so okay, I want you to do this, so but you are not doing it, so I will remove something that you like so that the behavior will increase. So we did that with that child. They also worked on punishment as well, so positive and negative punishment. So on the positive aspect, now is something that you add to decrease a behavior. On negative, something you will remove to decrease a behavior. So we applied all those principles, and it helped us to control the child behavior.
Some disabilities like autism show up later in life, looking mysterious and often attributed to spiritual causes, especially in Africa.
Children with autism, when they are born, they look normal. They look, like every other child. They learn their words, they get their words, they start walking. Then when they are maybe from 18 months, sometimes they start like as though they are regressing. They lose their words, they lose their speech, and then they lose their social interaction, because autism affects social interaction. So you see, a child that will run and embrace the parents and greet the parents before, now would just be on his own. The child can be there all alone, would never look at another child. So these children with autism, those parents, most of them feel that there's something wrong. I know a child that she's in her foundation, she's 3 years old. She was even reciting her alphabets and everything. Then this thing set in. She stopped talking, she stopped socializing. So of course the mother, it's natural to think that it's diabolic. In fact, amongst all the conditions, the one that parents really think that is diabolic is autism, because of its late onset. Because you don't see it, some of them you don't even see anything in their face to indicate that the child has a special condition.
Although the cause of autism is not yet known, there are common symptoms related to it.
Autism, there's still research ongoing concerning what causes autism. and there is no one single finding that this is what causes autism. Like cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. So now my explanation here could be what could lead to giving birth to a child with autism. So no one can say is this, is that, is a collection of, in fact, it can even be hereditary. Yes, of course, it can be. So it's a collection of all these things. One or two or more of them can lead to giving birth to a child with autism.
Maternal age had in the past been absolutely associated with having children with neurodisabilities. However, clinical evidences have shown that though this might have some percentage of validity, there are other contributory factors.
There are some tests, some medical procedures, some tests they go through abroad, but here, most hospitals don't do it. Because once you are like from 35, you know, they're supposed to check some things. But even that, I found out that age is not even a factor. Now, even 17-year-old ladies, 18-year-old ladies have children with Down syndrome. Every pregnant woman should undergo certain tests. That's just the truth. And even the doctors, even at birth, they should know. Abroad, once you have this kind of baby, they get a team that would, you know, check the baby and guide you through what should be done. But this one, the doctor just gives a diagnosis and you are left to on your own. You know, I just took my baby and went home.
Whether you are 40 or 50 or 30 or 20 or 18, so if you are pregnant, please go to the hospital, all right? Because if you have your proper antenatal, now some of these dangers might be eliminated. Yes, so if you have your proper antenatal care, some of these dangers might be eliminated. But sometimes it could also be hereditary. So whether you give birth even at age of 17 or 18 or 40, 50, sometimes it may not matter.
Since most disorders in children have been found to be congenital, the lifestyle of pregnant women becomes pertinent to the health of their fetus.
You know, we are human beings and doctors are human beings, they are not God. So they can do all they can do, but they cannot control all. They can give you some percentage, but I cannot give you 100%. Now, if it is hereditary, there's nothing a doctor can do. Now, if a doctor is doing all they can do, and a parent is not doing, you know, sometimes the food will consume as well when you're pregnant. Like, you know, when you over-fry your food, taking all this processed food always, you are killing nutrients, what you needed for child to survive as well. So what do you expect? So you might even travel to abroad where they have, you know, best, medical team and all that. So now it's a good thing, but it's not 100% guaranteeing that you won't give birth to a child with disability. Yeah, so you as a parent, you do your own thing. Don't take hard drugs, avoid alcohol when you're pregnant, avoid some certain work, hard labor when you're pregnant. So anything that can lead you to physical confrontation, eliminate it. All right, so when you're ill, go to hospital. When you are being booked for an appointment, go to hospital for medical checkup and your prenatal care. So whether you go to abroad or not, do all you can do, spend all your money. Money might help you, but money might not prevent you giving birth to a child with disability. So going to abroad is good, but also you need to do your part as a parent, and doctors also do their own part, because they are not God, they're just human beings.
Screen echoes from the valley, telling the African story.
But if these disabilities are not discovered at birth or at infancy, what corrective measures can be put in place to help such children live wholesome lives?
When a child has a proper intervention or early intervention, then you will see that the child will be able to, you know, be functional in several and many aspects. My lecturers in the university, I had two who are hearing impaired. They don't hear, but they lectured me. Yes, of course, in the university. So if there was no early intervention on these lecturers, wonderful ones, tell me, how would they? In fact, one of my lecturers, he was a hearing impaired lecturer, and he was a professor, though he's late now. He was a professor.
Handling crisis situations such as neurodisabilities comes in different levels. Unfortunately, many parents of special needs children live in denial for a long time, thus seeking help in inappropriate places.
When I got back to Nigeria, I met different kind of parents. I met parents who were desperate, knowing that their children needed help, and they were looking for help genuinely. I met other kind of parents who felt this child will amount to nothing, but can we just see how we can help the child? I met some other parents who knew that their children needed help, but the family members did not understand what was going on, so they were in pain. I met parents who were in pain. I met parents who also genuinely knew, but their culture and their religious belief would not let them actually freely talk about what is going on. I met parents who would not want their kids to come out to get intervention. They would rather you come inside their homes, quietly do what you have to do without having to let anybody know their business. I met parents who felt the children had a lot to offer if other people could understand them. I met parents who also knew that they could be something, but they could be whoever they wanted to be, but because of social stigma and the name calling and some religious beliefs, so they will say, oh, this child, so a child, for example, a child with cerebral palsy, they'll say, oh, it's from the snake world. When you get a diagnosis that you have a child with autism, you go through all the stages of denial, anxiety, and all of that. But the earlier you get into acceptance, the better, because the longer you wait, the longer it is for your child to be stigmatized. The longer you don't accept that child, the longer it is for your child to get access to education, all the support the child needs. When I say there's a gift in every child, yes, it is what it is. But do you want to keep wallowing in self-pity? Because the more you do that, the more you are opening more doors for people to stigmatize your child, because the more you look down on that child, and whatever you do to that child, what other people will do to that child. If you celebrate your child, I have a lot of parents, they're putting their child out there saying, look, my child might not be able to do this, but this is my child's strength, and some of those neurotypical children cannot do it too. And they're like, oh really? I know what, I look at some people and I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So most time the problem is that you look at the weaknesses too long, that you don't see the strength of this child and see how you can harness the strength of this child.
Because we have anger, denial, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. So most parents are still on the stage of denial and anger, not even bargaining, not even depression. So, you know, like by the time like you are in that level of denial and anger, your approach to things will be very, very difficult. Now, when you are at the level of that depression, then you actually isolate yourself from people. You might even hide each other and everything, so you don't want people to see. But when you're at the bargaining level, what can I do? How can I, you start asking questions. You ask God, what do I do? Should I meet pastor? Should I meet doctor? Should I meet teachers? What do I do? You start browsing, bargaining, what should I do? So, but then acceptance is this. Yes, this child has this so disability. I have to look for solution so that I can have my child assessed. Let's know what to do from there. But most parents are not at this acceptance stage. Even some of them that even come to you, they still want magic, but it's not magic. So you'll be on your toes if you are not careful to deliver. But some of us, what we used to do is this: we'll let you know, we'll cancel you first, so that you will be on the same page with us. And once we are on the same page with parents, work will be easy.
Screen echoes from the valley, telling the African story.